What's up, SC Nation? So in my previous role as a sales engineer, I went into a state where I was not very happy. The reason for that was I didn't see any room for growth. I was stuck in that current job, and that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life if I stayed with that company. And quite frankly, I didn't find the technology to be the most exciting thing to sell. That could be because I just haven't figured out how to sell it, or I needed more time to understand the product. I wasn't given enough information on how to solve a customer's problem with that product. It was more of a commodity sale. So I went looking for another job. It took some time. It took quite a while. I had a podcast running, so that's helped me get better as a sales engineer. It was fun for me, and it's helped improve other SEs as well. And if you didn't know about the podcast, it's called We the Sales Engineers. I publish every Monday. Anywho, it took some time, bottom line. And I was very close to checking out of that current work because I wasn't enjoying it. And I didn't see a future, which I already mentioned. So instead of checking out, I decided, you know what? It is time to solve some problems for myself internally within that company. And so I decided to do that. When I did that, I started solving problems for my teammates as well. And I was doing all that while still looking for another job. I didn't quit looking for another job. I had made up my mind that I was going to leave. But in the meantime, I was solving problems, which helped me internally as well. So, all this to say that if you are looking for a new job, if you feel like you're about to check out from your current job, instead of looking only for a sales engineering role, instead of just solely focusing on that and sucking at your current job, I recommend you start being an SE at your current company. And for your current company, whether you're currently an SE or not, doesn't really matter. If you're a software engineer, become an SE for your company. And I'll explain why and how in a second. But, well, actually, let me start now with the why. Looking at my notes. It's the main reason I started solving problems for myself within that company is to have fun. I wasn't really enjoying the work, so I had to find other ways to, make it a little bit more enjoyable for myself. So I started looking at problems, and solving problems has always been fun for me. So I had fun for that. The second reason is you'd be able to actually use that in your resume and as part of conversations with hiring managers. Because if you actually solve the problem for your current employer, you're having an impact beyond just selling, beyond your current job description. So now that's something you can talk about with a new hiring manager that you're trying to get into with that role. So let me see what else is there. Here, let me move this a little bit so I can actually see what I'm talking about. That's Canadian for about, by the way. All right. So, if you're trying to become a sales engineer, here's a controversial thought. Stop. Well, don't stop. Keep trying. But also focus on solving the problems. And here's what I mean by solving a problem. Identify an issue that you're facing on a daily basis. And if you're facing it, your team might be facing it. So, as a sales engineer, we have physical equipment. We notice that unless we have the physical equipment with us locally in a lab, then we couldn't do a demo, we can show the customer anything. However, as a team, each one of us had a lot of equipment and different equipment. So how could we have consolidated, put it into one lab, use it that way remotely? Because, internet, we can actually connect. So I talked to my manager, he identified this problem, and I started solving that problem for him. And it made the team better, it made me better. And that's an impact that I have where I reduced spend on new equipment or shipping by quite a few thousands of dollars, which might not seem too big for a big company, but it is still an expense. So how do you identify some problems? Well, is there something you've been complaining about recently? And Is there something that you've heard your manager or teammates complain about? And these are things that you can actually, just by opening your ears and having a thinking session, you could identify. And is there something that bugs you every time you need to get to work or need to do it? For example, if you need to update Salesforce or any other CRM and it's just taking too much time, can you automate it in any way? The answer might be no for some of them, but other things might be yes. Initially, I was an intern at a company called Nortel Networks. I don't know if anyone's heard of it. But in Canada, every single person I talked to has worked at some point at Nortel, which went bankrupt back in 2009. 2008, and I was an intern there, and I did sanity testing. And what that means is every day I did the same test over and over, where I had to click a few buttons on a GUI and then watch the hardware equipment do a certain thing. So I automated that. As a farewell gift to my manager, and I sent it to the team. I don't know if they ever used it, but it's something that I had to do every day. Honestly, I would have made my job obsolete, which I kind of did, because it didn't require any thought. It just, you hit enter, you hit a few buttons, and then the job is done. So automate that if you need to. And then after you identify the issue, understand what would happen if you solve that problem. Is it worth the time that you put in on a personal level and for your employer? So if this sanity testing, if it were to take me 6 months to actually automate it, 6 months straight to automate it, that means that 6 months I'm not doing sanity testing, and that's not a good thing. But if it takes me 15 minutes every day for 3 weeks, then it's worth the time. Then I can spend some time on it. So it's like any other product that any company works on. If the cost is more than what you would be able to sell the product for, then it's not worth the time. And then the last thing I do, like, I talk to my teammates, like, hey, I thought of this. Do you have that same problem? If I were to fix it, how would you feel about it? So you're doing a discovery on your colleagues. And then you go about solving the problem. So again, you need to invest how much time and it would take to actually solve it. You do have a job. So would you be able to do it during your free time? Would it eat into your family time? Is that important to you? Do you have the technical know-how to solve that problem? For example, when I automated the sanity testing, I did not have the technical know-how. I had to go and learn bash scripting. At the time, I deemed learning bash scripting as a skill that would be useful, so I decided to invest my time in that. When I solved the lab management problem, there was a tool that we sold at that company that would help with that. So I felt it would be good if I learned that product. It will help me be a better SE as well. So it's not just solving one problem, I'm solving multiple problems at the same time to make me a better SE. Even though I didn't want to stay with that company, I didn't know how long I was gonna be looking for a job. So it would be useful if I learned that product in the meantime. So if yes, great. If no, would you benefit from learning that skill? And it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So it might take time. You might end up leaving the company before you fully solve the problem, but you might be able to pass on that project to somebody else and they would be able to finish it. So you're still on the right track. And a big thing is, how can you break down this project into smaller chunks? Instead of, for example, I wanted to manage all the labs in North America, but could I just start managing one lab somewhere and give everybody access to that? And once that is done, then I can add more labs. I didn't have to wait till I managed the entire lab network for the entire company. I could do it in chunks and start making use of it as early as possible. And that serves two purposes. One, you're proving to yourself that this solution actually works. You're proving to your management that this solution actually works. And in case you leave the company, at least you would have done something, and it's not just a waste of time. And then the last question I would have is, can you get others involved in your projects? Would it be useful? Would you be able to generate interest with a few colleagues who would want to help you and be part of that. So you do all that, then what? And well, you add it to your resume. You had an impact. Try to track what was the impact. I didn't track what was the impact of actually creating a lab management system. I didn't track what was the impact of creating that bash script, and these are just two examples. But I can tell you that the impact of creating the bash script is they can hire an intern and have them do other things, like get coffee. That might be more valuable than clicking a few buttons. That's an example. The impact of creating a lab system that can be shared all over North America saves a lot on shipping. I don't know the exact number, but it would save a lot on shipping. It would speed up demo time, which will which will speed up the sales process, which will increase close rates. So it does have an impact. I don't have the exact number, but it does have an impact. And if you found that what you've done actually could solve a problem for somebody else externally to your company, and because you're working on your own time, you can look at sharing that on social media. Like, hey, I solved the problem. And you can do that whichever way you see fit that is safe for your current job, and you could actually help people outside. You can also get a promotion based on the job that you've done. So I had a dead-end job, but solving that problem could have landed me a better job. I did end up getting a job somewhere else, and I used all that information to get that job. And the whole podcast that I started was because I found a problem that I wanted to solve for myself. I wasn't looking for another job at the time. I just wanted to get better. But it did help me get a job somewhere else. Not because I'm famous, but no, because I became a better SE through doing that. So what is something that you can solve that will help you become better at your job or the job you want to become, which is what we're talking about here. So if you do all that, and then you have to remember the stories. How did you identify the issue? How did you fix it? How did you convince others to use that fix? And how did you migrate others to your tool, for example? What was the business impact of everything that you're doing, which was what I was talking about earlier. So if you're not a sales engineer and you do all this, you're becoming a sales engineer. This is what sales engineering is all about. We're solving a business problem through technology. So you might not have the title, but you're doing the work. And now how can you use that in your resume, in your interview process? How can you, if someone tells you, oh, you don't have the experience to be a sales engineer, you can tell them, well, actually, although I didn't have the title, this is what I did for my company. You can handle objections like that. So if you already have the title, you're an SE you're a sales engineer for external companies, where you're helping your company sell into other companies, solve other companies' problem. Now you're helping your own company solve their own problems. So you're an SE, both internal and external. And then I would ask, like, is this something that you can actually commoditize? Is this something that you can build your own company around? Even though you did it for a specific company, would other companies make use of it? And would you want to try to sell it elsewhere if it's legal? And I'm not a lawyer, so I don't have the information. But here's Ken Kutin, for example. He was on the podcast a few weeks ago. I'll link him here somewhere. He did that. He built deckbuilder.io for a previous company where he felt like he's just spending so much time building decks based on certain parameters. So he built a tool that does that for that team, and everybody was using it. And then he moved companies and went somewhere else, and he decided, you know what? This is actually a good tool that could be used elsewhere. I still need it in my new company. And he hooked up with 2 or 3 colleagues, I can't remember exactly, and built that tool. And now he's selling it. But you can try it for free at deckbuilder.io. I'm not affiliated with him, but you can check out his podcast interview. Again, I'll leave a link. And check out deckbuilder.io. It's free at this point, I think. And so then if you still haven't found a job, find the next problem. It will make your job fun. It will get you promoted potentially. It will get you visibility. And you won't feel like you're desperate to just leave. You could still feel like that, but at least it's the silver lining in your day. So that's my advice. Don't just spend your time checked out. If you did like this video, make sure you share, like, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. I heard YouTubers say that recently, so hit it because it's important for some reason. And check out the SE hotline if you're looking for help, if you want some brainstorming sessions to discuss, to figure out what you can solve. Check out the SE hotline. It's the service that's there for you to get better as a sales engineer if that's what you want. If you don't want to get better, by all means, don't use the service. Although I do recommend you get better. Always get better. So, yeah, that's it. I'll see you next time. Get back to work. Peace.